S38, war number 8, and we're up against DSVG. Today my team will be Tigra, Omega Sentinel, and Hercules. I only have 9 fights this time. I'm on path 1 in section 1. I'm also taking that Annihilus on the root node. And then I'm on path 5 in section 2, and I'm also taking the Tigra and Void. And then I'm taking Bishop and Peni mini bosses. The reason I don't have Kitty this time is because she was banned. And that is how it usually goes. More often than not, she is in my team, but if she's banned, then I have to deal with someone else. This time that someone else is Hercules. Okay, first fight here is a King Groot on the personal space regeneration node, and I'm taking this fight with Omega Sentinel, starting with heal block debuff mode active. The game plan here is basically the exact same as it would be against a King Groot on the safeguard miniboss node. I use the heal block debuff to deal with conduit regen, King Groot's own regen, and in this case also the personal space regeneration node. And basically the way to do this fight is to just get to your special 3 with Omega Sentinel, do a double medium to get the heal block debuff up, and then drop the special 3 all while he is in his regeneration mode, so that he doesn't shrug off the debuffs. After that you have basically won the fight. All you need to do is to just keep finishing your combos with light attacks to keep the debuffs paused, and the Incinerate will take King Groot down pretty fast. On nodes where King Groot isn't unblockable, or otherwise you can't stun him, you can also use the heavy attack to pause the debuffs, but only if he doesn't have his Furies active, otherwise he will shrug off your parry stun. A very simple fight for Omega Sentinel, but just like on any other node, try to avoid pushing him to his special 2, because if that hits you, you will die. Next up we have an Immortal Hulk on the Masochism Overtime node, and I'm using Omega Sentinel, starting with the heal block debuff mode active. Now I was thinking about using Hercules here instead to get that persistent charge from landing an intercept, but since the conduit bug is still a thing, I figured that Omega Sentinel would be the safer option. Now since Omega Sentinel has an easy access to heal block debuffs, even if the conduit bug happens in this fight, I can completely shut the regen down with just a single heal block. The game plan going in was to just get a heal block debuff up by parrying to trigger Masochism, and then doing a double medium to trigger the heal block debuff, and then just keeping it paused for the rest of the fight by doing full combos and finishing them with a light attack. The only special I will be using in this fight is my special 3, while the Masochism node is on cooldown, just to get those Incinerates up, so that once the Immortality is down, instead of regenerating at all, Immortal Hulk is just gonna drop dead. To trigger Masochism, I do a full combo and finish it with a medium to try and trigger a heal block debuff on him, and then I go for another double medium because my heal block debuff wore off. Now that I have the heal block debuff up and Masochism is on cooldown, I drop my special 3 for the 6 Incinerate debuffs. At this point the fight is basically over, but just to make sure, I punish the special 1 with a full combo, finishing on a light attack to pause the debuffs. Now the duration is more than enough to just outlast the Immortality, and then Immortal Hulk just falls over. I'm just switching on my cosmic power boosts here because the next fight is with Hercules. And the fight is a little bit scary considering I haven't ramped up Hercules at all before going in. So, next up we have an Annihilus on the Scared Stiff node, and I'm using Hercules. I pop an invulnerability boost on just in case, and I do have Odin's Protection, Aptitude and Galan's Cosmic Seed pre-fights here. just to make the fight extra safe and to just help me with the rest of my Hercules fights. So the game plan going in was to play extremely aggressive, go for those intercepts to get Hercules feats of strength up, and then bait special ones when possible. Annihilus didn't want to throw his special one, so I just had to push him to his special 2 instead, and since the animation took so long, I got rooted. But luckily at that point I already had a special ready, so I could just dex his dash attack and throw my special 1 to escape from the root. Now I'm in a similar situation here, but instead of baiting that special 2, I just baited a dash attack from Annihilus, shallow evaded it and punished it, went straight for my special 2, and that was enough to finish him off. I was a bit worried about that fight before going in, but it turned out to be just fine. Next up we have a Tigra on the power snack and 1 too many hits nodes, and I'm using Omega Sentinel, starting with the heal block debuff mode active. Now this fight is gonna go a little bit differently than my usual Omega Sentinel fights, and instead of just staying in the same debuff mode that I start with, I use heavy attacks to switch through them and pause the debuffs that way. The reason why I started with the heal block was to remove willpower healing from play completely, and because the tracking debuff is the next one in line when I use a heavy attack. The tracking debuff is very useful in this case, because while Tigra has that blue sense, the Huntress sense active, she has a 10% chance to cause projectile based special attack hits to miss. That means that my special 2 hits can miss while that's up, but the tracking debuff you bypass miss, so you don't have to worry about that at all. So that was just to play this fight safely. And I would say that it worked out perfectly. Next up we have a Nova on the Ebb and Flow intercept node, and I'm using Tigra. I removed my recoil masteries for this because I have a Void fight coming up with Hercules, and I really don't want to have those recoil debuffs on me while fighting Void, for obvious reasons. Now the game plan here against Nova is the same as always. I'm baiting his heavy attacks and special 1s, punishing them with my heavy attack, and then just dropping big special 2s. I don't really worry about the Ebb and Flow intercept node at all. That protection does make the fight take a lot longer, but in the end it doesn't really cause any issues. The only difference is that the fight is just gonna last a bit longer. And sometimes if Nova lets you, you can land those intercepts by spamming heavies in the corner, or he can dash at you when you throw your special attack. Either way is perfectly fine. I'm not gonna fish for it, but if it happens then that's cool. Here it did, and that special 2 is more than enough to finish him off. Next up we have a Black Cat on the Ebb and Flow intercept and Mighty Charge nodes, and I'm using Hercules for this fight. And the reason why? Well, I could use any one of my champions here, but Hercules is probably the safest, and I would also like to ramp him up here a little bit more. Having only one persistent charge is fine. He's very easy and fast to ramp up in fights anyways, but if you have the option to ramp him up a bit before going in to your harder fights, then why not do that? Here at the start of the fight she just wouldn't let me land an intercept. She kept triggering her evade over and over again, which is fine. It was just kinda annoying when I was doing the fight. Now she's down to 3 of those combo shield charges, and her evade chance is based on how many of those she has. So one more hit and that last one is gonna drop, and then she just doesn't really do anything as a defender. Now she can't evade anymore, and the only real issue with her is that sabotage debuff she places on you. While that is up, she can fail your dexterity, at least the buff from triggering, and she can also fail your parries, and every time something like that happens, you do take a chunk of damage, so avoid getting hit by her while that is up. Next up we have a Void on the Ebb and Flow, Intercept and Mighty Charge nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Hercules. The basic game plan here is to just go in and out as fast as possible, but I will go for that heavy attack at the start to get another persistent charge. Now I'm just trying to build up power to my special 2 and also going for a few more feats along the way. The plan is to just get to my special 2, intercept, remove the protection, and then land a Hercules special intercept with the special 2 to get those 3 cruelty buffs, and the damage should be enough to be able to chain another special 2 if this one isn't gonna finish him off. And it was. It was actually a pretty perfect fight if I do say so myself. I know I don't use Hercules that much, but he is pretty dumb. Now I'm just healing up Tigra and switching on my Mystic power boosts, because the next fight I have is one that I don't really like taking with her, but since Kitty Pryde is banned, I didn't really have a choice. So, here we have a Bishop on the Safeguard mini-boss node. I'm taking this fight with Tigra. I use an advanced power boost to start the fight with a bar of power, just to make the fight go faster, because I really don't want to stay in this fight any longer than I have to. I had a plan going in, but it all went down the drain right from the start. Bishop dashes back and starts holding block, which triggers his regeneration, making him unblockable, and that just completely messed me up. I had to go for a special 1 there to get the neutralize up and to refresh the primal sense, because otherwise I'm not gonna be doing any damage. Then I also messed up a punish on his heavy attack, which also crit, and now I'm pretty low already, and I haven't even made a dent to him yet. So the actual game plan is to just bait special 2s from him, punish them with my heavy attack, and then drop big special 2s, and then just hope that he doesn't throw his special 1 into your block. If he does that, you can't do anything else but back off until the Incinerate aura, or whatever it's called on Bishop, goes away. The timing to get that dash in on Bishop special 2 is pretty tight, so you gotta be ready for that. If you dash in too late and it catches you, there is no hope of surviving. Luckily I did bring this fight back, but that was a horrible start. Next up we have the final fight of this war, a Peni Parker on the Stunning Reflection and Polka Dot Power mini-boss nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Hercules. I did put my Recon Masteries back on here, just to make the fight go faster. Now, to be completely honest, I do not understand this placement. The biggest issue with Peni is her auto block, but to trigger it she needs her spider charges, which she gains by either using her special 1, or whenever the opponent of Peni gains a bar of power. So if your attacker gains a bar of power, she gains one of those charges, but since this is the Polka Dot Power node, that doesn't happen. So that just removes one part of Peni's kit that makes her an annoying defender. So I really don't understand it. Of course she can still get the charges by using her special 1 like she did here, but even then, just removing one of those makes the fight a lot easier. So do let me know if you realize what the idea here is, but I just don't get it. Now we did end up winning the war 9-5, and this one was a very important one. We were the second place of Masters, and DSVG was the spot number 3. So to keep our second place we had to win this one. And we did, which I'm very happy about. And the war was very close up until the very end, so it was a nail biter for sure.